Welcome back to the Social Media Millionaire Podcast, episode 6. We're super excited to bring this one to you today. We're going to go over how we scaled to 7 figures and what we're changing in our own business as we scale towards 8 figures.
So we really want to unpack for you guys some different elements that we haven't really discussed super publicly around what brought us to 7 figures and ultimately what we are aware we're going to have to change or get rid of or refine to actually get to 8 figures. So we're going to unpack a little bit of the team side, systems and delivery, and of course, we're going to talk about marketing at the end and the changes that we're going to need to make. So let's dive in and start by talking about the team. A little bit of backstory. I'll just give you like a brief overview. So I hired my first team member within like 6 or 7 months. And the first hire we had was just for like systems and admin, someone to like take over emails and some client correspondence and just clean up the systems. That was the first hire.
Well, and they didn't even come on. It was part-time. And then they moved into a bigger part-time role. And then
it expanded from there. The next people that we brought onto the team were sales closers and a sales team.
Because then we brought on our first sales closer, then we brought on another sales closer so they could tag team at part-time and like cover each other's schedules. And I want to make like a note on the first hire. There's a lot of things we've got right in our business. There's a lot of things we've got wrong. And this is one of those things where I'd put it in the middle. And here's why. When you are building a business, and this is a buzzword, but everyone talks about how time is money. Everyone talks about opportunity cost. And everyone talks about how you need to outsource. Like if you're doing a $20 an hour task and you're able to make $100 an hour, you need to hire someone to do that task. And on paper, that is really simple. But let's say that task is responding to your Instagram DMs, but your DMs are sales. You could hire someone to do that for less. But if you're really good at sales, maybe you want to keep doing that, for example. And the thing we did here is I think we were smart in the fact we brought someone on to do more admin work, more of those quote unquote $20 an hour type tasks. And then we brought on sales reps for better or for worse. I think it was for better for the lead flow we were experiencing at the time.
And I just want to say, and I feel like this is an important disclaimer, and I don't want it to come off like I'm being defensive because that's not the case, but I do want to clarify like why we brought on the sales reps. And the reason for that was not because either of us are bad at sales or because we don't enjoy that. So my point in saying that is that if your motivation in hiring a team member is solely because you're kind of afraid to do that task in the business, that's maybe not the best reason to outsource it right away. I'm all for outsourcing things that aren't your talent and your emphasis.
The sales reps were something that you didn't want to give up at all. I had to convince you of it.
Right. I love sales and I love closing and I think it's super, super fun. And so the reason that we brought on the sales reps is actually just like Soren said, because of the lead flow we were experiencing. It didn't make sense for me to be spending all my time back to back to back to back because I was spending, remember, like weeks at a time.
Imagine you have, let's say it's a 45-minute sales call. You block off 4 of those a day. That is, I can't do math, but that's like 3 hours of your time gone.
Well, and it always runs over. So it's like at least 4 hours of your time.
Yeah, if you have any time in between calls. And then like, what if it's a no-show? Are you going to try and get ready to like create content and do all of that? Now could a dude do that? A dude could probably do that.
There's like less to get ready. Yeah.
You don't have to put makeup on. And guys look like crumb bums. And also,
guys just send it on the internet, honestly. Girls try a little harder.
TikTok's a little bit more show. And not to say like that you can't
show up as you are, but it just tends to be.
Or that you can't take that time and repurpose it. So there's also like a mental drain where you're prepared to get on a sales call and then you're not.
It doesn't happen and then you have to like shift focus. That's why people talk about like only wearing like specific hats on specific days in your business. So you're not switching from like marketing to sales to coaching to whatever, which we'll get to that in a little bit. But anyway, circling back around to the sales reps, because there were days and days and days at a time. And I actually wasn't blocking off 45 minutes. I was doing 15 minutes for those sales calls. And so I was doing back to back to back to back to back to back to back. Sales call after sales call after sales call. Sometimes we'd have a no-show, right? That happens in sales. But I was just spending hours on the phone. And then I was signing up all these people. And then to continue the lead flow, because we still had tons of leads coming in, I then signed up all these people, had all these coaching clients, and then had to also, so that my schedule doubled because I had all these coaching clients. And then I also had to continue doing sales calls. And so again, I just wanted to clarify because I know there's people out there that are like, oh, I suck at sales. I could hire a sales team. Yeah, except you're going to have a really hard time training them. Like it's still a skill that you need to learn. So don't try to get away with that.
And this goes back to as a business owner. And one of the things that allowed us to scale to 7 figures was we focused on revenue generating tasks all the time. One way or another, we were figuring out how we could bring more revenue into the business.
And whether that was refining our offers so that we could handle more people, refining our lead generation so we had more leads, refining our sales process so we were closing more leads, everything and our focus, even still to this day, is on revenue generating tasks. So those were the first few hires. We hired and fired a social media manager. We hired and fired a couple sales reps. Then we started to expand the coaching team, which we also hired and fired a coach. And then we've added 4 more coaches.
I think in the coaching / online quasi consulting space, I think if you're going to go that route with whatever you're doing, whether it's fitness trainer, business coach, marketing, whatever it is, I think building out a team to deliver that product / service is crucial. Because if you look at the people who have been in the business for more than 3-5 years, they have the teams in place. And it's because it alleviates burnout.
100%. And that kind of brings me to the next thing that I'm personally changing is stepping even more into the CEO role. And I know that that's become a huge, buzzwordy thing on social media as well.
Be your own CEO.
Be your own CEO. But I want to unpack for you guys just a little bit of what that actually looks like. So, number 1 is actually offloading more responsibilities onto team members rather than just tasks. We're going to talk about systems in a minute, but this is something that I'm able to do partially because of the systems we have in place. But instead of just having, recurring tasks that other team members are taking care of, but I'm still overseeing it, making sure that it's done correctly, making sure that it's done, I'm actually offloading also the responsibility of our different departments onto different team members. So we just promoted and added somebody to our sales team who's now in charge of our sales department. We promoted and moved somebody over that is now in charge of the coaching department, marketing department, right? So we're doing those things where the responsibility is coming off of my shoulders. So I can be in more of a managerial / visionary role and less of a day-to-day implementation role in the business.
I think this goes for like a lot of businesses because at a certain point, the founder has to make that choice. I saw an excellent example. I forgot who said it, but they were comparing it like the artisan versus the entrepreneur, where the artisan is really good at their craft, but the entrepreneur is really good at building the business, building the team, and bringing people together to collaborate in a way that provides more value than if they were individually.
And that's really the thing that's going to help us transition from 7 and multi-7 figures to 8 figures is actually going from me building and delivering the product to instead me building the team that builds and delivers the product.
And I'm going to make a really bold statement here, but with all of our hindsight knowledge and wisdom that we have now, if we were to go back, me and Kenda, I think we could have scaled to $1 million a year basically with just us. Hear me out though. That's because of product pricing with where we would have been at and all of the systems and automations that we know now. And I think with the exception of if we had just outsourced or could have outsourced certain things.
Like on a project basis almost. Yeah.
Like you hire an agency to, for example, we don't do this, but like hire an ad agency to make your ad campaign for you. For example, not like a full-time or a contractor that works for you or a full-time employee, but like one-off stuff like that. I think with like that model, I think one person, maybe 2, I think it's really possible for you to get to $1 million. I think it's definitely possible if you have 5 people on your team to get to $1 million. I don't think you need like 10 is pushing too much because at a certain point, you're looking at revenue per employee. And at 5 people, you're doing $200,000 revenue per employee. You can pay your employees well, you can pay your taxes, and you can have profit to continue to grow the business. At 10 employees, you're talking about $100,000 per employee. If you're going to pay an employee $75,000 a year, you throw on payroll taxes, you throw on your corporate taxes because you're probably going to want to be a C Corp at that point. I feel like you'd be lucky to get 10K profit per employee. And that doesn't leave you with a lot to pay yourself and also grow the business.
Which brings me to kind of the next thing, which is we talked briefly about migrating those responsibilities, but then actually implementing monthly tasks for me and Soren, like department head check-ins, to actually have that accountability there without us having to constantly feel like we're overseeing everything that's happening in the business all the time. And then the final point there, as far as stepping into the CEO role, is really just being more assertive with quarterly goals and progress. And so rather than just checking in kind of at the end of the month and seeing if we've checked off everything, doing more of like a weekly check-in on the progress of everything that's happening with those quarterly goals and targets. The last thing on the team side that I'd say that we're probably changing to get to 8 figures is actually hiring more people on the content side of the business. I feel like we've done a good job scaling to 7 figures of keeping the content marketing side really lean, and we've really built out the delivery and offer side of the business. But I think bringing on more full-time people like a video editor, a graphic designer, things in that capacity to, like I said, fill out the content team a little bit further will be a next step.
Yeah, and the biggest thing, I think there's 2 factors that are really going to contribute to our personal company getting to 8 figures, at least an 8-figure run rate within the next year to 2.5 years. And one, I firmly believe in SEO. We've got a lot of traffic that just continually comes from Pinterest of all places. Expanding into YouTube and Google as well, you just get a lot more leverage there. And the other thing, just touching on Kenda about like the content, building out the video or the content creation team with videographers, editors, creative artists, you see these really big business personalities. For example, Grant Cardone. And it's not that his content is always that good, but he's in your feed 20 times a day. So you see something of his just about no matter what. And there's more of that. And that is a strategy with how he pumps out so much content.
I mean, it's a lot of people's strategy is just like throw as much content out as you can and hope for the best.
Yes. And like, obviously he makes some really good content, for example, but you can post not a lot. Like Mr. Beast on his main channel, I think he throws up 1 video a day or 1 video a week at this point. And these videos get like more views than like The Bachelor does.
Because he pours so much into the production, the strategy, the quality of the content itself.
It might take him a month to make that video, but it just blows up when it goes off. Plus, he's built that audience. So there's different strategies. I think the quantity overall, goes back to the study with that the professor did with, making pots, dividing the class, the quantity versus the quality. Make as many as you can versus make the best. And making a lot of pots led them to making a better pot faster. And I think that quantity gets you there, but it depends what you want to do with your business. I think for us, and I don't think our goal is to post 50 times a day, as much as possible, but we want to be able to create higher quality content that can serve more people on more platforms. And with, being able to like have Kenda focus strictly on marketing, it goes back to those revenue generating tasks of if we're going to scale an 8-figure, coaching agency completely organically with no ads, how are we going to do that? So instead of, all that money where we would, that a typical business around $1 million would start spending like more money on ads, we're going to spend that on building out a team and resources that we can leverage. Plus, a lot of this content, and this is what I love about organic content marketing, is once it's out there, it is out there forever pretty much. And it will continue to market for you until you die. You run an ad, as soon as that ad is up, it's not even like it's on your feed anymore. It's gone. So
100%. And that's one of the things that I actually wrote down for this episode is one of the things I think that is actually going to take us to 8 is coming back to the basics of what blew us up in the first place, which is Pinterest SEO, high performing TikToks, and consistency. Because as we've had more team members and had more clients, we've moved away from the consistency on social media a little bit. We've moved away from focusing on super high performing TikToks, and we've just really just pumped out the same thing kind of over and over. We see that it works, we see that it converts, but there hasn't been as much emphasis to the high quality, captivating content like there was in the beginning. And then bringing back in the Pinterest SEO, where we really stepped away from that for quite a few months. I think that'll bring in a lot of the consistency that we're wanting to see in scaling to 8 figures, because pairing the Pinterest SEO with a lot of the new offers and pricing structures and really being more strategic on the back end and delivery side is going to be very, very impactful for us moving forward.
That's 100% true. When you're talking about search engines in general, they're oftentimes more consistent unless that search behavior is cyclical, like best back to school backpack, for example. Right. You're going to get a hit in September and then no hits for the rest of the year. The other thing that I've been thinking about in regards to building out our team further and building out the systems that we have, in the last month, we've really been evaluating I think almost every single system we use, simply because in the beginning, you can find a platform might suit you very well for an idea that you have that you want to take to market. And it might be great. However, at least with where we're at, one of the things I've been looking at is how well does it directly integrate with other platforms that we use where it won't break if we change something a little bit? How resilient is that software or tool that we are using? Because in the beginning, we had a bunch of like random stuff and we are using Zapier to hold it all together, which is Zapier is an amazing platform, amazing product. But one of the things that we found is it's not very resilient if your product offer evolves or if you change what you're selling.
Even if you change one question on an application form, then you have to go back in and reset the Zap so that it doesn't fail, you know?
It can mess up your entire data flow. And that's one of the things that as we're getting bigger, we want to decrease the amount of times we change the questions on applications or whatever it may be. And we also want less points of failure. We want our systems to be resilient to the point where they will run day or night, because if they break, it affects a lot of people. It can mess up your marketing. It can mess up your sales for months. It can do all kinds of stuff and have adverse consequences on your business that can be catastrophic, especially when, you get to a bigger business. And if it's just you and your income goes down like 20% the next month, but you can get back up the month after, that's fine. If it's your business and your business tanks 20% when you're doing millions of dollars in revenue and have tons of employees to pay for and a massive payroll, that can be a lot more catastrophic for you on the flip side. So that's one of the things we're also looking at as we scale and get bigger. We're looking down the road and seeing how we can kind of future-proof all of our back-end systems and delivery processes that we have to be resilient.
And that's one of the things that I would say helped us get to 7 figures is we do evolve very fast. We make decisions quickly, we make moves quickly, and we're not worried about if it's going to fail or not work out, because us taking the action will answer that question for us, and then it's a data point and we can move forward. And we're getting to a place where, again, with the volume of lead flow, the volume of clients, with having so many team members, if we change one of our systems, it's not just that Soren and I are changing it now, it's that we have to retrain our entire team on the system, create logins for the entire team on the system, migrate clients to that new system, change all of our data and all of our applications, right? Our automations, right? And so it's a much bigger process. It becomes harder to make quick decisions and move quickly the bigger your business is.
And that's not to say really hot topic out there. We were talking about this before the episode started, but ChatGPT. It's not saying that if a new system or a new technology becomes available, you shouldn't adopt it because of all of that work.
Right. It just is another thing to think about, and just kind of one more thing to do on your list that's already long. So looping back to the marketing, where we were talking about consistency and all of that, I think the other 2 things that we're really focusing on to take us to 8 figures is leaning further into email marketing and putting a bigger emphasis on long form content, hence the podcast, more emphasis on YouTube, and really bringing in those elements that are going to live a lot longer for us in the lifespan of content creation, unlike TikTok. And also, we've grown an email list and we've had really great conversions out of it, but then we haven't really been very strategic beyond where that kind of drop off of our main flows are. And so really refining, and that really loops back into systems, refining the back end of that email flow, looking at what that web is going to look like, really defining our customer journey, not just on the front end, but also on the back end with us, our client retention. Where do they go? What's that experience like? Because we really want, and this is part of what we're doing with our systems, we want every touch point to us to be a really high-end, high-touch feeling experience. And so whether that's up-leveling an email campaign, refining a login process for our client portals, or refining the way that what our sales process looks like, right? All of those things are there to, 1, make it easier on the team, make things faster and flow better, but 2, to deliver the highest touch possible experience for our clients, because when our clients are happy, that's what allows us to continue to grow. So looking at a marketing emphasis and automations around our systems, and then really refining our team and admin management from the perspective, again, not just of, okay, here's all these tasks that I'm handing off onto Sasha or pushing off onto Brenda, right? Instead of just throwing tasks at our team members, we're really shifting the responsibility of these different departments. And our systems have to reflect that shift so that not only are there the tasks there and, the catalogs of information, but also for Soren and I to get in, see at a glance that everything is taken care of, and not have to think about it, not have to worry about it again until the next, quarterly check-in. And then the final thing I'll say on the system side is really refining the offer delivery side of things. This brings in a couple different components. One, you've got your systems and automations. Another, you've got your data, your tracking, your results, your retention, all of that. And then the third element of that is the team building. Are there team members where there's 2 or 3 people that are kind of doing the same thing, right? And how could you clean that up or consolidate that process? Are there systems that are a little bit clunky and we find that we're fixing things more than we should be? We're having a template link fail more than it should be, right? And so looking at all of those things, we've been making a huge movements to bring new delivery elements into the business or into the offers that provides a better experience, provides even more touch points and more support without requiring pulling time from each of us individually so that it's actually detrimental to the delivery of that offer. And a shift that I've really made, I think, internally is that I always, for the longest time, I equated quantity and amount of touch points with clients and things like that with quality. And the reality is that, you can do arguably more in a super dedicated, focused 45-minute call than you can having, 3 half-hour check-ins every month. So really being more intentional with the time that we are putting into these different support elements to make sure that not only are we not spending time on the delivery side that isn't necessary, but also that our clients aren't having to spend time with us that isn't necessary for them as well. Doing things like we actually shortened our signature program from 6 months to 4 months because what we saw is that we can deliver the same results in 4 months. We can deliver the same information without wasting the client's time, without dragging things out longer than they need to be. So little shifts like that, where we've shifted the mindset from more is more into intentionality is more, has produced a massive shift in the team culture, in the morale of the team, and also in the results and success of our clients.
And speaking of our clients and how we're shifting our team and our values, and one of the biggest things that we've also worked on shifting that we're starting to really see the results of that is by shifting the culture and community aspect of our clients. I think an examples of brands that have done this really well, for example, that come to mind right now are CrossFit, where people who go to a CrossFit gym, all they do is they talk about how awesome CrossFit is and try and recruit you to their cause. But it's the fact that their values when you go to a CrossFit gym are clear. You're going to go all out for the workout. You're going to do it with the best form that you can, and you're going to show up every day to get better. And we're really instilling similar values with aspects to business into our programs with our clients.
And there's a difference between customizing an experience and customizing a strategy for a client and bending your values to fit with what that client wants. And the latter, that's what we will no longer be doing, right? We'll always hit home with the custom strategies. We'll always make sure that the programs are super, individualized for what every single person is going through. But in bending our values, that won't be happening anymore. We'll really be holding firm to who we're calling in, who we're accepting into the programs, and really, making shifts to call in more expressive buyers and foster even a deeper community in there. And that's something that I'm really, really proud of that we've seen come to fruition with our most recent round of foundations and Accelerate. Those girls are so close. It's such a close-knit community. They're all hiring each other. They're working with each other. They have separate, Slack group chats and meetups outside of the program. And it's become just such an amazing community. And I won't take full credit for that because our coaches have done such an incredible job of really fostering that with this cohort. But it's just been incredible to see these little shifts that we've made over the past 6 months really, really taking form right in front of our eyes. And our team, I always say on social media, our team is by far the thing of all of our business wins that I'm most proud of, because our team is very, very close, and not in the gross corporate like a family way, but we're all such good friends, and we all are able to really lean on each other and go to each other for support. And it's such, our team meetings are such an open exchange of ideas, and it's just so fun. And I think that culture that we've built with the team through, these hard learned lessons and having to fire team members that weren't aligned with where we're going, and bringing new team members on and really making sure that they are aligned with the culture that we're wanting to create here, we're really seeing that be transferred to our clients and the experience that they have as well. And so I'm super, super proud of that. And I know that the team that we have is a huge, huge part of what is going to allow us to hit 8 figures. And the marketing and systems development side is just kind of icing on the cake, because the team is really the driving force behind all the success that we're seeing and all the growth that we're seeing come into the business.
So to summarize, what really got us to 7 figures was being able to focus on revenue generating tasks, fast action, speed, and I'll say this, it doesn't matter what the size of your organization is. If you can act fast, you will have a competitive advantage over every single one of your competitors. So acting fast, revenue generating tasks, figuring out our marketing, and being able to drive sales with our customers and, get referrals from those customers was a huge one as well. And on top of that, and lastly, I think, was starting just to learn the basics of being able to deliver a really good product or service. Going to 8 figures is refining that entire process, bringing our service to a top tier quality. And we're doing that through building a team that can deliver more than me or Kenda ever could on our own. And by continuing furthering those marketing efforts to drive the sales that you obviously need to get to 8 figures. I think that sums up exactly kind of like what our plans are, and like what you can use in your own business as you scale, to 6, 7, and 8 figures, like on your own course of your own journey. Obviously, there's a million ways to run businesses. This is our perspective on it. Get as many perspectives as we can and make the best decisions that you can for your business. Because at the end of the day, you are your own CEO.
Yeah. And I'll throw in my barrel racing metaphor because I can't help myself. If you only take insights, the rodeo industry, you're going to max out the amount of insight and information that you can get. If you pull a little bit of training from dressage riders, you pull a little bit from jumpers, you pull a little bit from the racetrack, right? Those little tidbits and how you bring them together to form a method that works for you, that's aligned with your goals, what you want out of life, what you want your business to look like, and you really work backwards from your targets and what you desire to, instead of just setting goals and creating a plan to hit those goals, you can really work backwards and create daily tasks that will bring you to where you want to go. And you can't do that just from listening to one coach, one mentor, one book, one podcast. It's really important that you pull in, take what works, and apply it in your business. Test things for yourself. Don't just take other people's word for it. I think that's probably the biggest lesson that I'd say I've learned through all of this, is that implementing is the best way to learn. There are going to be things that work for you great, that you enjoy. There's going to be things that work for you great that you don't enjoy. There's going to be things that work for other people that don't work for you at all. And instead of sitting back and thinking about it and contemplating your action, take the action and collect the data as to what actually works and remove a little bit of the emotion from the business.
And that is it for this podcast. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us over on social media, Soren.Laney on Instagram and Kenda.Laney as well. That is where you can see everything that we've talked about in this episode being implemented on the daily.